My guest today needs absolutely no introduction. Imran Khan, welcome. When did you decide that you were going to make cricket your career?
I think when I was 9 years old. I mean, I didn't know how difficult it would be, but because my older cousin Javed Barki was then the star in Pakistan team, and I went to watch him in Lahore, watching him play, and watching him score a century at Lahore, that was the beginning. That's what really made me want to become a test cricketer.
What have been the major influences in your life outside cricket?
Well, a lot of influences. When I was younger, my mother was a very strong influence. I was very close to her, so, as a boy, I always used to listen to her, and she had very strong views. I mean, she was not a woman, who was sort of, who dealt with things in shades of gray. It was always very strong. I mean, she always had strong views. And those views came through to me, so that's when I was younger. And really, as I got older, I mean, there were so many different influences. I mean, you get impressed by people, something they say, they impress you, and, they influence you, and you think for yourself, and then you form your own views by being impressed by people.
You've intimidated several batsmen in your life. Have you ever been frightened of facing a fast bowler yourself?
Several times, more than I've intimidated batsmen, I think. I faced some of the fastest bowlers in the world. In fact, most of my cricketing career coincided with a time in world cricket when there were the greatest number of fast bowlers, and possibly the fastest bowler ever, who was Michael Holding. And I faced him, and yes, I did feel scared from within. Tried not to show it, but I was worried that, if that ball hit me, it could do a lot of damage.
What does it feel like walking into a game and knowing that it depends on you?
I can tell you one thing, that it prepares you very well for life, because the crises you face in cricket and in situations like that, where there are a lot of people, there are a lot of people watching, there are great expectations because you've got a name to protect and a reputation to guard. So it puts a lot of pressure, and once you cope with those pressures, it makes it much easier in life, to face crises.
Any particular anecdotes you'd like to share with us on that?
There have been so many, it's a 21-year, by the way, the longest test cricket career in history since the Second World War. No one has played for 21 years, so it's a long career. I mean, I can't even begin to remember the number of times I've walked into situations where there's been an incredible amount of pressure.
Can we now move to the songs that you've chosen for us?
Well, first of all, let me make it clear that these songs all were at a time when I was a young boy, and I used to listen to songs then. Now I don't really, in fact, I don't enjoy the songs, film songs that much now. I mean, maybe because I've got stuck in my mind has got stuck in an era where, where I used to think the songs were much better. I don't think they're that great now. One of the films I used to enjoy a lot was, and I watched it quite a few times then, was Teesri Manzil. And, Shami Kapoor in the film sang the songs, Oh Hasina. And I liked these because, it was in that era, it was this rock and roll type mixture. And, I was young and impressionable, and I thought they were wonderful, and I used to like Shami Kapoor.
Who do you rate as the best batsman among your contemporaries?
Well, during my cricketing career, there was one who stood above everyone else, and that was Vivian Richards. I rated him very highly because, he was a genius. I mean, his talent was more than any other batsman I've seen. I mean, his pure reflexes, the way he moved, I mean, the way he got into position. He was head and shoulders above any other batsman I ever bowled to. And the other great quality was that he loved challenges. You know, I mean, what I loved about him was that he used to go in and take on fast bowlers. He loved challenges. He had a lot of pride in himself. People used to sort of, well, and bordering on arrogance. But, you know, the way he used to go on and in crises score runs, I mean, when it mattered, he was there. So he was a genius, and he stood out as the greatest batsman.
And the best bowler?
Bowler, well, there were two bowlers, one in terms of talent and the other in terms of temperament. In talent, Michael Holding was the greatest. I mean, there was no one who came close to him. I mean, I remember at my peak, when I was bowling at my best, and I used to feel that, you know, there was no batsman who I would rate. I mean, I felt that no batsman could stand in front of me. But even then, sadly, I used to feel that Holding was better than me. And he was, I mean, he was a genius. But the bowler who, in terms of temperament, you know, in terms of guts and determination, in terms of being a fighter, who was the best, was Dennis Lillee. I thought he was a great bowler too. Malcolm Marshall also was a great bowler. Bearing in mind that my period, my era was at a time when some of the greatest bowlers in history were bowling at the same time.
You've also done a lot of campaigning for neutral umpires. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, very simple, really. Throughout my career, we saw foreign teams come to Pakistan. They used to abuse our umpires. They used to call them cheats, you know, and any mistake they made was immediately taken as cheating. And when we used to go abroad and mistakes were made by umpires abroad, we used to feel that they were perhaps favoring the home side. But if we said anything, we were considered to be bad sports. So we had to accept their mistakes as mistakes, while our umpires, when they made mistakes, was considered cheating. So that made me realize that there's only one fair thing, and that's to have neutral umpires, like in other sports. But, you know, almost all the players agree to it. The sad thing is that the administrators, for one reason or the other, they just don't, they can't come to terms with it. But it's going to come sooner or later.
You've been retiring for a while now. With the World Cup behind you, have you retired for good, or will we see you back in the field again?
Well, let me just correct you. I've only retired once. You know, people don't seem to understand. They keep thinking every time I make myself unavailable for a series, for whatever reasons, they think I've retired. In fact, I only retired once, and that was in 1987 after the World Cup. Once I came back, you know, I never retired after that. I mean, there were 2-3 series which I missed on principle, or once there was just a lack of challenge because the team which was coming here, you know, I thought maybe they should play youngsters instead of me. But really, I never announced any retirement since then. Perhaps I played my last match for Pakistan, you know, it's quite possible. But, you know, having retired, made that announcement of retirement once, it's a question of once bitten, twice shy. I'll make sure that, you know, when I'm 100% sure that I'm not playing, only then will I make an announcement.
The next song that you've chosen for us is Chaudhwi Ka Chand from the classical movie.
Yes, it is Chaudhwi Ka Chand, and the reason is because it was picturized on Wahida Rahman. I mean, she was looking beautiful at the time when the song was being sung, and she was my all-time favorite actress. You know, I thought she had everything. She could dance, she could sing, she was beautiful. She was beautiful in an Eastern way. I thought she was, so that's the reason.
Imran, the inevitable question. Who is your ideal woman? Or should I say, what is your ideal woman?
You know, when I was about 22 to 25 maybe, you know, I had ideal women. But you know, at 40, touching 40, I mean, you pass the stage of having ideal women because, you know, there's no such thing. There are some people you get along with much better than others. And that also is a phase in life. You know, it depends what phase you're going through. You find those male or female, I mean, you find them more compatible. And so really, I'm too old for ideal people, men or women.
Over the years, A certain image has been built up about you, that of the cricketer, the playboy, and now the philanthropist. Who is the real Imran Khan?
Well, I would like to think that, I'm not a stagnant person, someone who's evolving. And it's very important, for anyone to evolve in life. People who stagnate are left behind. I was perhaps, like my friends, materialistic. My goals in life were based on materialism. They are not anymore. I suddenly realized that I have, in fact, I had for a long time the money that would make me happy or that would satiate all my wants. And really it was pointless to keep going after money. There were other things that satisfied me much more. And I think it's that realization that makes you go a step higher, I would say. I think that's where I am now. The greatest feeling I ever got, and that's including the World Cup, was when, I saw the structure of this hospital coming up. I can't explain to people the incredible feeling that was, because for 4 years people were saying that it's impossible.
You mentioned the hospital. It is, of course, the Begum Shaukat Memorial Hospital. How did it come about?
Well, it was my mother's illness. I mean, it was during that time when I was very vulnerable. And I realized that, there are so many people in this country like that, who, there's me with all the resources, and yet I could not alleviate the pain. And yet there are so many people here who sell everything in order to, and still don't get anywhere because cancer treatment is so expensive. So that's when the idea came to do something for the poor here.
And what's the final song that you've chosen for us?
It's again picturized on Wahida Rahman in that film Guide. And it was Gata Rahe Mera Dil. Yes, but again, not so much the song, but because, she just looked absolutely wonderful in it.
You've achieved so much, Imran, at such a young age. Looking back, would you do anything differently?
No, I wouldn't. I suppose I made a lot of mistakes, but, there are no regrets. Because I feel that, one must learn from them, and that's how you improve yourself.